Uh, so Sutra 1 says the resting place of heaven and earth, etc., is Brahman on account of the word self. In him, heaven, the earth, and the sky are woven, as also the mind with all the senses. Know that self alone and leave off other talk. So this sutra says if you one should try to understand all these things and that Brahman is everything and all the details also in mind, just like and then we should avoid all other talks. That means all the talks means all other scripture description and all the ritualistic practices in various religious sects. So this sloka is like similar in Bible in that we live, we move and have our being, everything in that. So Brahman, he is the bridge of immortality. Now this, it is quoted from Mundak Upanishad 225. All these creatures, my dear, have their root, their abode and their rest in that being, Chandogya Upanishad. Now again, these things are being explained so that our mind, which is limited, human mind, understand. In fact, there is no bridge. The Brahman, the bridge is bridge and immortality both. It is not a bridge of immortality, it is bridge and immortality both. That means the relation of Brahman is the bridge and the achievement of goal is immortality. Similarly, all the creatures, it was explained earlier that essence, they are all Brahman, but in manifested appear, they are appearing different. So we have to think that in essence they are Brahman. From the text cited above, where mention is made of an abode and that which abides, and also from Brahman, indeed is all this. That means abode is also Brahman, and then that the beings residing in the abode is also Brahman. It is same as the secret doctrine says, Akasha is full of beings, but those beings are themselves Akasha. We are not to take that Brahman is of manifold. From this description, when it is said that all the beings have root in the Brahman or all beings are Brahman, we should not infer that Brahman is manifold, differentiated, variegated nature, like a tree consisting of leaves, branches, etc. Because that idea would lead to pantheism. Pantheism, what does it mean? Pantheism meaning worshipping of so many deities, just like in Hindu practices has come uh, and being practiced. That leads pantheism. But Advaita does not uphold it. Advaita philosophy negates it because everything is Brahman. So there are no branches, there are no nothing like that, all are Brahman. So in Advaita philosophy, the worship of so many deities, pantheism, is not recommended. Only we have to respect all, not worship, because in worship there is some personal desire and wish is involved. So, in order to remove the possibility of such a doubt, the passage under discussion says, know him alone, the self. After discussing or after explaining that every creature, every being has its root in Brahman, it concludes that know him alone is everything. So that is the conclusion. It is like that, as Brodsky says in the Secret Doctrine, the first fundamental principle is oneness, from the lowest infusoria to the highest star, highest god, highest devata, and from the particle of dust to the highest star. They are all oneness. But for comprehension of limited human mind, the things are described separately. The same idea is here. Know that self alone and not that which abides in it, which is merely a product of nescience and have to be set aside. The abode and the being residing in that is not the real knowledge. In fact, is ignorance. Though for limited mind of human mind, first we have to see that and then realize that abode and the abiders all are Brahman. Now, Sutra 4 says the living or individual soul also. But in individual soul, what in theosophic language is called Dehatma, or you can say human soul, mind, it itself is not that Brahman, but its essence is Brahman. That difference we should keep in mind. The word not has to be inferred from the previous sutra, nor is it the individual soul and can therefore be denoted by the word self, Atman. For it is impossible to conceive the individual soul as omniscient and as the resting place of the whole universe, because individual soul cannot be omniscient. It is working at lower level. So individual soul by itself is not Brahman, but its essence is Brahman. Then Sutra 5 also, on account of difference being mentioned between the individual soul and the abode of heaven, etc., know know him alone as the self, says the text under discussion, thereby differentiating the individual soul, desires of release, and the abode of the heaven, etc., as the knower and thing to be known. The Brahman is the subject to be known, and individual soul is trying to know that this is the difference. And when we know that realize real nature, then it becomes Brahman. Okay. Sutra 6 says, on account of the subject matter, the Upanishad begins with what is that by knowing which everything is known? Mundak Upanishad. This is the question appearing in Mundak Upanishad and also in other Upanishad. What is that thing by knowing which everything is known? And concludes by saying the knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. That means if a person knows the nature of Brahman, then he knows everything because Brahman is everything. And for him, there is nothing to be learned further and he becomes Jivan Mukta. Which shows that the subject matter of the whole Upanishad from beginning to end is Brahman. And therefore, it is the same Brahman which is spoken of as the abode of heaven, etc. Then Sutra 7 says, on account of remaining unattached and eating also. Uh, in Mundak Upanishad, the example is given there are two birds, inseparable friends. They are not inseparable. They are inseparable. They are not separate actually. Cling to the same tree. One of them eats the sweet fruit, the other looks on without eating. This refers to our soul, human soul, Jivatma, and the higher self, that means Atman. So Jivatma is doing the work in the manifest world and enjoys its fruit, either of pain or pleasure, and the higher self witnesses it. But finally, when the other bird, the soul, learns the lesson, it becomes the higher self. Here, the Brahman is described as the witness and the individual soul as experiencing the fruits of good and evil action and hence different from the other. This distinguishes the two can be apt only if the abode of the heaven, etc., is Brahman. And once the soul attains to the knowledge of good and evil, that means Purna Viveka, and his work becomes according to that, then his soul becomes Brahman. Sutra 8 and 9 deal with the topic, the Bhuman is Brahman. Bhuman, the Sanskrit word, it means infinity, totality, fullness, and also the Bhuloka, fertility. So all these qualities in nature, fullness, limitless, fertility, all this is the quality of Brahman. Bhuman is Brahman because it is taught after the state of deep sleep. After deep sleep, that is after prana or the vital force, which alone functions in that state.
सुबह रेड्डी और रामा रेड्डी को भाइयों के द्वारा कराई गई थी और बाद में यहाँ पर दो विशाल का गोपुरम बनाया गया जिसमें गोपुरम की ऊंचाई 100।
ये क्यों बीच में बोलना है भाई? आप साइलेंट कर दीजिए जो भी बोलना है. In the deep sleep, when we rise to Sushupti stage and sometimes Turiya stage, this sutra says that our jiva slope enters into Brahman, Brahman consciousness, though on waking up it does not remember. But if on waking up, if one feels complete peace, a sort of bliss, then one can see that that night it has been able to enter into that Brahma. It may be only for a few seconds, the Sushupti stage, but it brings out complete peace to the soul, though it does not remember what it experienced. So this Upanishad, this sutra says, Chandogya Upanishad, even though the soul has a possibility of every day reaching Brahman during the sleep, deep sleep, dreamless sleep, but it does not know that and it disregards that. In the seventh chapter of Chandogya Upanishad, Sanat Kumara teaches Narad several truths. He begins with a name and goes higher and higher till he reaches the highest truth, which is Brahman, Bhuman. There is a story in Chandogya Upanishad where the Narad, Rishi Narad requested Sanat Kumar to teach him the highest philosophy of life whereby he can attain nirvana, or human being can attain nirvana. So in that case, Sanat Kumar, who is the highest sage, as you know, in theosophy, the ruler of this earth, he teaches, says Narada, starts from the lower and goes up to highest truth and up to Bhuman. Bhuman, this infinity, bliss, fullness, which is Brahman. The Bhuman you should seek to understand, he is telling Narada, where one sees nothing else, hears nothing else, understands nothing else. That is the Bhuman. That means one understands, one feels, one experiences Brahman, everything, nothing else. Whether to the physical man, to the ordinary man, to the worldly man, something looks good, something bad, something evil. But at that stage, everything appears and experiences as Brahman at that stage. Then Sanat Kumar, in accordance with the Narada's desire to be an Advaiti through truth. Now here this statement is Narada also desired to be Advaiti. That means at lower stage he is also in Dvait because you know the story, Puranic story says he always takes Narayan Japa. He japs the name of the Narayan and a devoted bhakta. He is considered, he is projected as devoted bhakta of the God. But this story tells that even he desired that he should rise to Advaita. That means between him and the Brahman, the duality ceases. That's why he requested Sanat Kumar to give him that knowledge. Uh, so Narad takes him to Sanat Kumar, teaches him and takes to him through series of steps the knowledge of Bhuman. Then the Shruti would not give any information about it as it does in Chandogya Upanishad, cited above. Bhuman is a Sanskrit word which means infinite fullness, the supreme, limitless reality, highest reality. When I first came in to know this word Bhuman, I first thought probably it is referring to Bhumi. But when I looked in dictionary and uh, artificial intelligence, that gives a meaning that infinite fullness, supreme, limitless reality, highest reality. That is Brahman itself. We can say this is another attribute of Brahman. Then Sutra 9 says, and because the qualities mentioned in the text are appropriate only to the case of Brahman. Quality what? Limitless, basically limitless, all embracing, abode of everything. These qualities cannot be attributed to any being other than Brahman. The qualities referred to are truth resting on its own greatness, non-duality, bliss, all-pervadingness, immortality, etc., mentioned in the text under discussion, which hold good only in the case of Brahman. This statement is being brought because these qualities are mentioned in respect of Bhuman. So Bhuman can be only Brahman. That is what the argument is there in this sutra, the Brahma Sutra. As I mentioned earlier, Brahma Sutra quotes the Shruti Upanishad, but then it applies logic also to understand that. Logic, of course, a higher mind state. Uh, Moreover, the chapter begins this: the knower of the self goes beyond misery, which shows that the self of Brahman is the subject to know. Knower of the self goes beyond misery. misery of the situations which come in his life. He becomes free. In our theosophical teaching, it is mentioned that whatever misery or whatever situation comes, they come as a fruit of our karma, and we have to realize we have desired them. So, if in that state, we are not troubled by any misery or any adverse situation in life. Sutra 10 to 12 deal with the topic Akasha is Brahman. Akasha, but sorry, Akshara. Yesterday it was discussed Akasha, today is Akshara. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, when Sage Gargi puts many questions to Sage Yagyavalk, what is this, what is this, what is this, what is pervaded by what is pervaded by what, and last question comes, Akasha is pervaded by what? Because Akasha is the highest state of Prakriti, Mool Prakriti. So there, Yagyavalk says, Akasha is pervaded by Akshara. Akshara. Akshara have two meaning. Akshara means which does not gets destroyed, no chara, and other means the letter or syllable, Om, Pranava. So both the meanings. And Pranava means what? Sound vibrations. The word, the logos, the in the terminology of Bible, the God was the word. The first emanation is vibrations, word, sound, and that is that and a whole akasha, whole space is pervaded by that. So that is the beginning of the manvantara. The akasha, the imperishable, this command or ruler is Brahman because it supports the everything up to akasha. Akshara is described as the ruler, supporter, pervader of akasha, and therefore the logic is that it refers to Brahman. Uh, then it quotes Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where sage Yagyavalka tells Gargi, in that Akshara, O Gargi, is the ether woven like warp and woof, like, weaving the cloth. This attribute of supporting everything, even the Akasha, the first entity in the order of creation, can be true only of Brahman. First entity supporting the Akasha. Then again, it is neither gross nor minute, neither short nor long, etc., nor black, nor white, nor any color, not oily, not dry. All this mentioned in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. That is quality of that akshara. So that again means that it refers to the Brahman. Therefore, akshara is Brahman. Because the command attributed to akshara, this supporting can be the work of highest self only and not of pradhana. The pradhana is again coming here because it is refuting the logic in Sankhya philosophy that pradhana is the highest principle. Under the mighty rule of the immutable Akshara, O Gargi, the sun and the moon are held in their position. The command or rulership cannot be the work of non-intelligent pradhana. So the pradhana cannot be Akshara, which supports the everything or Akasha. This is the logic given because pradhana or Mool Prakriti has not the intelligence necessary for supporting and the whole process of evolution. So pradhana cannot be the akshara. Akshara is only Brahman because the quality of akshara is mentioned that it is supporting everything. Sutra 23 deals with the topic 4. The highest person to be meditated upon is the highest Brahman. Now this is very important and this is in line with the sacred doctrine where Madame Blavatsky says while summing up in volume 1 that only object of meditation can be that causeless cause. Only object of worship and meditation can be that causeless cause, not any other god, not any entity below it. And that worship cannot be done in any man-made temple, man-made structure. That can be done only in the cave of the heart, provided heart is purified. So here this sutra in Brahma Sutra is same thing. The highest person is only to be meditated. The highest person who is Brahman. Uh, because of his being mentioned as an object or act of seeing, he is to be meditated upon is Brahman. So Brahm or Parabrahm is the only entity or only Sat which is to be meditated in the esoteric uh, philosophy or on the real spiritual path, not the other deities. They have to respect it. The other deity have to be respected and gratitude have to be expressed to them because they are doing a lot of work for the universe for supporting us. So gratitude has to be there. Uh, Gratefulness to be there, but worship has to be done only for the highest person or Brahman or causeless cause. Again, he who meditates with the syllable Om of three mantras, A, Uma, on the highest person, etc., here a doubt arises whether the highest Brahman or the lower Brahman is meant. When it is mentioned that you should meditate on Om, then a doubt arises whether it is referring to highest Brahman or lower Brahman. That means Nirguna Brahman or Parabrahman or manifested Brahman or Logos. Because in 5.2, both are mentioned, and also because Brahma Loka is described as the fruit by the worship of the highest person. The sutra says that this highest person is the highest Brahman, that means Parabrahman and Nirguna Brahman, and not the Hiranyagarbha, that is lower Brahman. Hiranyagarbha is a term used for the manifested Logos. So this sloka, it is being clarified. When it says meditate on the Brahman, it's clarified that this refers to the highest Brahman or Parabrahman and not the Hiranyagarbha or the lower Brahman. Because the paragraph ends thus, he sees the highest person, which shows that he realizes or actually gets identified with the highest person. It is not a mere imagination, but an actuality. For the object of an act of seeing is an actuality, as we find from experience, but Hiranyagarbha is an imaginary being since it is product of the ignorance. Why Hiranyagarbha or manifested Logos is not to be meditated upon? Because that is also transient, that is also temporary, as mentioned by Broadson. But we have to be grateful to the Hiranyagarbha or Logos because all the energies we have come through him and we are getting all the energy from him or her because they know him and her there. So gratefulness or Kritagvita to all the gods, including manifested Brahman, has to be expressed. But worship or meditation has to be done only on the highest Brahman according to this Upanishad, according to Brahma Sutra, and according to the occult uh, science or theosophy. The attainment of Brahmaloka by the worshipper should not be regarded as an insignificant fruit of worship of the highest person, for it is a step in the gradual emanation karma. First he attains the loka and then final beatitude. Yesterday it was mentioned the person who worships the Sagura Brahman or manifested Logas, Ishvara, he can go up to Brahmaloka and stay there till the Manvantara ends. And then he, along with that Ishvara, merges into Parabrahma. But the worshipper of the Nirguna Brahma directly goes to Parabrahma. That is mentioned in Upanishad. But here it says the first stage where it goes to Brahmaloka should not be considered insignificant. That is also high state. Only difference is there the soul has to wait for final liberation till the end of the Kalpa, end of the Manvantara. Sutra 14 to 21 deal with the topic, the small Akasha is Brahman. What is small Akasha? There is vast Akasha, which is of which reflection is the sky which we see, and there is small Akasha. Small Akasha means in our heart, human heart. Human heart, space in human heart called small Akasha, Chota Akasha. Why is it considered Akasha? Because greater Akasha, which is the source of all creation, small Akasha, which is the heart, human heart, is creation of all the human thoughts and emotions, all the human activities. Here, when Akasha or heart is being mentioned, it is not the physical heart, but the cavity or what we call heart chakra, which is the chakra of highest emotion. So, in that emotion, which is linked to the thought, all the creation comes, just like from larger Akasha, manifested world appears. So, this tiny Akasha is called city of Brahman. That means our heart space is city of Brahman, and it described a small lotus, a small uh, lotus, kamal flower, like palace, and in it the small akasha. What exists within that small akasha is to be sought, that is to be understood. Chandogya Upanishad. In Gita, Krishna also says, I am seated in the heart of all being. So our divine nature is supposed to be, our higher self is supposed to be focused in the heart. Further, as large as this external ether is, so large the akasha within the heart. Chandogya Upanishad says the outside, the outer akasha, uh, what we consider the largest one, but little akasha in our heart can be as large as that. What does it mean? When our heart expands to embrace the whole universe, that is the terminology used. Our heart should embrace the universe of whole use by your affection, by your compassion, by your universal brotherhood. Then that small akasha becomes the almost a large akasha. So there's no difference between small akasha and large akasha. As far as effectiveness of the evolution of human being, the small akasha or chota akash is Brahman on account of going into Brahman and if the word Brahmaloka. The individual souls going into Brahman is likewise seen from other Shruti also, and the daily going is an indicatory sign. Earlier it was mentioned that our soul daily goes to Brahmaloka when it, uh, during sleep, it attains the dreamless Sushupti stage and sometimes Turiya state also. All these creatures, day after day, go to this Brahmaloka. This is also mentioned in Chandogya Upanishad. All these creatures, day after day, not only human being, even animal, during sleep go to the Brahmaloka. That is, they are merged in Brahman while fast asleep and yet do not discover it. At human level, it is applied, though because human have got intelligence, have got feeling, but our consciousness is not developed to that extent that even after deep sleep, you can feel something different, something positive different, we cannot feel. So we do not know that in that sense, this sloka, this mantra of Chandogya Upanishad is trying to explain. So what does it mean? That our sensitivity of heart should be such that the having experienced the deep sleep, we should in some way, at least to some extent, experience that state of Brahman, our highest state of consciousness. Sutra 22 and 23 deal with the topic that which shining, everything shines in Brahman. You know, second line of our universal prayer, O hidden light, shining in every creature. That means Brahman as consciousness is shining in every creature. Shining means our consciousness, individual consciousness, unit consciousness is part of the Mahat Akasha, the Brahman consciousness. So that is shining. So we should use our consciousness, our knowledge, our wisdom in proper way so that we help our own evolution or also evolution of humanity. So all this knowledge is given only for that purpose. Then Sutra 22 says, because of the acting after the shining, that which shining, everything is science. And if that science, then everything science. That means if a person, if a man or woman feels that inner shining, inner light, then by his or her word, by his action, and by his thought, he or she makes others also shine. That means makes others also come into contact with this such knowledge. Then it refers to Mundaka Upanishad, which says, there the sun does not shine, nor the moon. That means it is trying to explain this shining of our consciousness by that Brahman, by the energy of Brahman, is not comparable to shining of sun or moon. That is in physical effect. But this shining becomes inner shining becomes effect to spiritual world where one can realize himself or herself identical with Brahman. Everything else shines after it, but its light of this is lighted. Manduk Upanishad. Here it refers to the supreme Brahman, the pure consciousness, and not to the material light beside the sun that can light it. So inner light, wherever it is referred, it refers to pure consciousness, supreme consciousness, that means supreme Brahman, and not to the light of the physical sun or moon or anything else. By its light, all this is lighted, so that it is the light of the intelligence, consciousness, or Brahman, which illumines the whole world, illumines and non-illuminous and non-luminous. Anything non-luminous, it is illumined. That Brahman is self-luminous. We learn from the text like that. It is the light of lights. Uh, Again, Mundaka Upanishad says that Brahman is the light of lights. Light of light means what? The lights are various consciousness. For example, you, me, and all other beings which have individual consciousness. We have got inner light. But the source of the light is that light, which is Brahmanic consciousness. Mahachit. Then Sutra 23 says, moreover, the Smriti states, in this Brahma Sutra, the Badrayan or Vedavyas brings out certain shlokas, the Smriti, particularly Bhagavad Gita, also to support the contention, to support the statement made in the various shlokas of the Upanishad. So here refers to Bhagavad Gita, where in chapter 15, shloka 6, Krishna is said to be state, not doth the sun lighten there, not moon, nor fire, having gone there, they return not. That is my supreme abode. When Krishna says my Param Dham in Gita, that Param Dham is referring to Parabrahman because he's the Logos, he's the manifested Ishvara who has emanated from the Parabrahman. That is his Param Dham. And there he is mentioning in that Param Dham, the sun does not shine, moon does not shine, but it shines by itself. Because shining of sun and moon are of physical, material world, lower world, and shining of the Brahman is of the highest spiritual world. The light, and then another shloka of Gita says, same chapter, chapter 15, shloka 12, the light which residing in the sun illumines the whole world. That which is in the moon and in the fire, know that light is mine, is to be mine. That means this shloka of Gita is trying to say that even physical light, the light of sun and moon, which is lighting the physical world, the source of that light is that supreme light, that Brahman light or Ishvara light. Sutra 24 and 25 deal with the topic, the person of the size of thumb is Brahman. Person of the size of thumb is Brahman. What does it mean? It tries to explain Angusht Matra, that Upanishad says size is Angusht Angul Matra. The being of the size of thumb resides in the center of the body. Knowing that Lord of the past and future, one does not seek to hide oneself anymore. That is that, Kathopanishad. In Kathopanishad, Yamaraj, when teaching Nachiketa, he mentions the size of that Brahman is like thumb. And thumb is what? Thumb is that is space inside the heart chakra, that is size. So in that we have to feel. Moreover, in reply to the request of the Nachiketa who wanted to know Brahman, Yam refers to his being of the size of thumb, thus that which he wanted to know this. He refers that actual man or actual person is of size of thumb. Now here, thumb is referred to in respect of two things, even individual soul and Brahman. So individual soul, according to Upanishadic teaching, is also concentrated in the heart, cavity of heart. And the cavity heart is of the size of thumb, so it is mentioned our soul is of the size of thumb. Though, of course, in practice, it cannot have any size, length, breadth, and all those things, but it is for giving a corollary or understanding, it is size of thumb. Similarly, the pure consciousness is concentrated in that cavity, and therefore Brahman is supposed to be size of thumb. Brahma Sutra 25 says, but with the reference to the space in the heart, the highest Brahman is said to be of the size of thumb, and because man alone is entitled to study of Vedas. Because man alone, when he said man alone, that means out of the lower yonis, that means plants and animals and elementals and mineral. At man stage, at human stage, when we get mind, then we become entitled to study of Vedas. How could the all-pervading Brahman be of the size of thumb? The question arises, how could all-pervading Brahman be size of thumb? This is the discussion in the Brahma Sutra. Because earlier said that Brahman is all-pervading. So how can all-pervading be size of Brahman? Uh, because the space in the heart is of the size of the thumb, therefore Brahman, with reference to the abiding within the space, is described as being the size of Brahman. What does it actually mean that a person, a sadhaka, has to experience the Brahman consciousness within the heart, not in either body, on either limb of the body? So that's why the Brahman is described as the size of the uh, heart, or size of the uh, thumb, which is the size of the space in the heart chakra. Since Brahman abides within the heart of all living creatures, why is the thumb used as standard? Because man alone is entitled to the study of Vedas and to the different upasanas of Brahman prescribed in them. Therefore, it is with reference to him that the thumb is used as the standard of measurement. So, this size of thumb, angul math, is for human mind. It may be a human level, it may be different for gods. Sutra 26 to 33 deal with the logic. The right of the goods, the right of the gods to the study of Vedas. Now, this is a very interesting thing, and probably is not found in either scripture, not even the theosophy, that even the gods have right to study the Vedas. Now, Veda does not mean the books published. Veda means the real knowledge of Brahman. So, Sutra 26 says, being above them, above men, who are the being? The gods, and gods of infinite categories, hierarchy there. So they also are interested in the study of Veda. That means getting real knowledge of the Brahman, because it is possible for them also to attain knowledge, as Badranayan Vidvyas says. Sutra 2633, there is a digression from the main topic in this section. Badranayan thinks that besides the humanity, besides the luminary orbs like the sun, moon, etc., each has a presiding deity. This theosophy also said each planet, each sun has a presiding deity, its own Atman, soul of that name, with body, intelligence, desires. It has also certain desire, not human-like desire, but it has desire. And as such, there being all the causes which can qualify them for the upasana and supreme knowledge. The gods are also entitled to them because it is possible for them also, since they too are corporeal beings, they are also material beings, though of a very subtle matter, their body there. And they also have desire for Brahmaloka or that final illumination, final liberation. That means gods are not liberated beings. Many and they are also attained to that one to that attained stage. Here, liberation, when in respect of God, is being told, because liberation nirvana has different levels. So we should not confuse the liberation of the human being at what stage and the liberation of gods at different stage. But common word is nirvana, moksha, liberation. In the Shruti also we find Indra and other gods living the life of brahmacharya for attaining the knowledge of Brahman. For instance, Chandogya Upanishad. Chandogya Upanishad is a story mentioned that when Brahma mentions that the one reality, by knowing that, man gets completely free from miseries, desire, and becomes Brahman like, all consciousness, all bliss. So, in that case, when gods, demons, and human beings heard that, they went to Brahma That story shows to learn that this sutra Brahmaloka it supports that even gods are desirous to know the Brahman and become liberated. Example is given that God, this one Indra example is given in Chandogya Upanishad when he went to Brahma to learn the nature of Brahman. And another example is given the god Varun Devata. He also supposed to have possessed his knowledge and given to imparted to his son Bhrigu, sage Bhrigu. So gods also desires of possessing this knowledge of Brahman, and many of them have by their own tapas, by their own effort. Sutra 34 to 38 deals with the topic the right of the Sudras is to be studied of the Vedas discussed. These sutras disqualify the Sudra for the knowledge of Brahman, though through the study of Vedas, but it is possible for them to attain that knowledge through the Puranas and the epics Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now, this was mentioned in this Upanishad that an Upanishad's the age of Upanishad is considered about 5,000 years old. So that means this concept of Shudra and classification of various castes in Hindu society is coming from about 5,000 years old. But this statement that Shudra is not entitled cannot be accepted today. And this is also commented in the Secret Doctrine in detail by Brodsky, that instead of probably original intention was not that banning entire group, but only the persons who are not eligible, who are not have reached that consciousness to study the Vedas, not as a community, but individuals. And then later on, when the degradation of religious practice started, the whole community was deprived of the study of Vedas. The digression began from Sutra 26 ends here, and general topic is taken up. What is general topic? The nature of Brahman. Sutra 39 deals with the topic prana in which everything trembles is Brahman. Prana is Brahman, but this prana is not our ordinary prana which we breathe. This is prana of prana, that means source of prana, a spiritual sun, which energy comes. Then Sutra 40 deals with the topic the light is Brahman. Light means again inner light, not the material light, though material light is also rooted in that light. Then Sutra 41 deals with the topic the Akasha, which reveals names and forms, is Brahman. These are earlier covered also, and this is being repeated. Sutra 42 and 43 deals with the topic the self consisting of knowledge is not the individual soul, but Brahman. Self consisting of knowledge. Which knowledge? About knowledge of this about Brahman. When the self, that means even human self, when it has knowledge of Brahman, then it becomes Brahman. Then Sutra 42 says, because of the Supreme Self being shown as different from the individual soul in the states of deep sleep and death, this person embraced by the supremely intelligent self knows nothing that is without or within. When we enter deep sleep, we become one with the Brahman consciousness, and we do not have at that stage any difference from others, which shows that in deep sleep, the person which represents the individual soul is different from the Supreme Self, called here the Supremely Intelligent Self. The extensive discussion on the individual soul in this section is not to establish its jivahood, but to show that it is really not different from the Brahman. Then we come to section 14, that means last section of chapter 1. What is time? We've got about 10-12 minutes. I will conclude briefly. In all the sutras of the first 3 sections, it has been shown how all the Vedanta texts refer to the Brahman. Now the fact that Pradhana is not based on scriptural authority is a question by the opponent, and his objections are being answered. The whole of the section 4 practically answers all objections from the Sankhyan philosophy, Sankhyan standpoint. Sutra 1 to 7 deal with the topic the Mahat and Abhyakta of the Katha Upanishad do not refer to the Sankhyan category. In case of Sankhyan philosophy, Abhyakta is referred to the and Mahata refer to the Mool Prakriti. But in Upanishad, Avyakta and Mahat are referred to the manifestation of Brahman. Sutra 1 says, if it be said that in some recessions of the Vedas, that which is inferred, that is the pradhana, also mentioned, we say no, because the word avyakta occurring in the Katha Upanishad is mentioned in a simile referring to the body and means the body. That means body and our faculties which are not yet manifested, that is mentioned avyakta, unmanifested. The Mahat is superior to the intellect, and Mahat in Upanishad and also in Theosophy is same as manifested Brahman, the source of all intelligence, all ideal faculties in various creatures. Sutra 8 to 10 deal with the topic. The tricolored Aja of Svetaswara Upanishad is not the Sankhya Pradhana. There is one Aja. Aja means unborn, red, white, and black, producing manifold offspring of the same appearance color. Sutra 9 says, but this color is given to various elements, tanmatras and then elements. Like fire, water, and earth is said red, white, and black. So these tanmatras, these elements are also emanate from Brahman. So their essence at the highest level, as Adi Loka, is also Brahman. So there is color, red, white, and black. Sutra 11 to 13 deal with the topic. The five people of Brahman are not the 25 Sankhya category. Fivefold five people of Brahman. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says these are fivefold five, 25 level of consciousness is somewhere mentioned. But they are not 25 categories of Prakriti as mentioned in Sankhya philosophy. Sutra 11 says, even from the statement of the number fivefold five, 25 categories by the Shruti, not the Shruti does not refer to Pradhana or Mool Prakriti on account of difference. So here the explanation being given that Sankhyan categories are not the numbers categories mentioned in the Upanishad, which is mentioning the state of consciousness, where the Sankhyan philosophy mentioning the state of the Mool, differentiation of the nature, Prakriti, that in which the five groups of the five and the subtle ether are placed, that very Atman. Now 5 times 5 makes 25, which is exactly the number of Sankhyan categories. So the Sankhyan say that there is a scriptural authority for their philosophy. The Sutra refutes such an assumption. Then Sutra 14 to 15 deal with the topic. There is no contradiction in the scriptures as regard the fact that Brahman is the first cause. Many of the Sankhya philosophers question that Brahman is not the first cause, only Mool Prakriti is first cause, Pradhana is first cause. But this sloka refutes that and says that all the mention, all the description in various Upanishads only explain, only make clarify that only Brahman is the first cause of all the manifested world. Sutra 16 to 18 deal with the topic. He who is the maker of the sun, moon, etc. is Brahman and not the prana, the vital force. Maker of the whole universe, including moon, sun. Not only maker, but keeping in their order, keeping in their working function, is behind the source of, behind all this is source of energy of Brahman. Sutra 1922 deal with the topic, the self to be seen through hearing, etc. is Brahman. Hearing, etc. means already our Gyanendriya. Uh, the seer is not the eye, but the person behind it. It is Upanishad. The hearer is not the ear, but the person behind it. The smeller is not the nose, but the person behind. Person behind means consciousness. And since our consciousness is a part of this Brahman consciousness, so Brahman is the real seer, real hearer, real taster, real smeller. So this sutra is bringing that idea. Then Sutra 23 to 27 deal with the topic. Brahman is also the material cause of the world, material cause. That means matter or Prakriti can form the rupas for functioning of the manifested world only with the energy of Brahman consciousness. So this is the explanation given. This is the description given in the sutra. Then Sutra 23 to 27 deal with the topic Brahman is also the material cause of the world. Then the arguments will refute the Sankhya philosophy, refute the others. Then this way the whole section is refuting the Sankhyan argument that Pradhana is the ultimate source, ultimate cause of everything. But it says no. Pradhana is also affected by Brahman. Brahman consciousness energy is supreme, which is directing, controlling, manifesting everything. And everything is Brahman. Even moon Prakriti is Brahman. This sutra says by this, all doctrines and references to the origin of the world, contrary to Vedanta texts, are explained. So, with this, so Brahman alone is the first cause and holding and nothing else. So this chapter concludes that Brahman is the alone the first cause of everything, source of everything, and nothing else. So a person or human being should meditate only on Brahman, on the first cause. So this ends the chapter 1. Tomorrow and day after, I will cover, tomorrow night, next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I will try to cover the chapter 2 and half of chapter 3. So according to this, it may take about 6 more sessions. Thank you very much. Now, if anybody wants to add a comment, he or she is welcome.
Sir, next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there are already date fixed. I will give you date, some other
Okay.
date.
No problem. No problem. No problem. But I want that whole thing can be covered because as you move chapter to chapter, many other subjects come. So that at least our brothers and sisters get some glance what is the Brahma Sutra is trying to say, though it's obscure and very.
पांडे जी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आपने ऐसे विषय पर प्रकाश डाला है जो बहुत सारी चीज मुझे भी नहीं है, और ब्रह्म की जो व्याख्या उपनिषदों वेदों में की गई है उन्होंने सबको ज्ञात करा दिया। इंडियन सेक्शन की ओर से मैं आपको धन्यवाद देता हूं, और जो उपस्थित भाई बहन है उनको कुछ क्वेश्चनिंग करना है या फिर कुछ एडिशन करना है तो ये मंच सबके लिए खुला।
Okay.
Just I want to know, the Brahman is the primary and also a material cause. Is it true, sir?
Yes. He is a primary and material cause. Yes, according to the Upanishad, according to Shruti, according to Brahma Sutra, it is cause of everything. We will say it, not he or she. And that is what our secret doctrine says. Everything emanates from that. Even the infusoria, the smallest creature, to the highest God.
Then how to differentiate Moola Prakriti and Moola Purusha, sir?
Differentiation is only for our comprehension because our mind is limited. We cannot comprehend if we are taught oneness at one time. So that is why the process of deduction and induction both are covered in the secret doctrine in deeper philosophy. As you say in Upanishad also, finally says this is Brahman, this is Brahman, this is Brahman. That means the duality there. But finally said everything's same, alone. So it takes about that gradually. First we understand the parts and then we come to the whole. There are no parts. There are no parts. Everything is one.
Okay, thank you, sir.
और कोई पार्टिसिपेंट इसमें कुछ एडिशन करना चाहता है या फिर कुछ क्वेश्चनिंग करना चाहता है तो कर सकते हैं। अगर कोई प्रश्न नहीं है तो हम इस मीटिंग को समाप्त करने जा रहे हैं। मैं विमल जी को रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं कि वे क्लोजिंग प्रेयर करें।
Thank you, sir. I'll just close with these words of Bill Lawrence, who is known as the person who inspired Tim Boyd. He was called the old man, and you must have heard, you might have heard Tim Boyd say this prayer. It's a very nice prayer. The name of the prayer is Spark of the Divine. I know that I am a spark from that eternal flame. I am a grain of sand on this beach of life. I am related to a blade of grass, correlated to a leaf on a tree. I am part of the universal all. What can be denied me? That's all.
शांति,
Thank you.
शांति।
Yes, nice, very beautiful, very nice.
You want me